Hello and happy Monday. Welcome to our first lesson of our last week of school here. So, we are just wrapping up with multiplying polynomials this week. So, we did multiplying binomials by monomials, binomials, and trinomials last Friday. And today we're going over what we call special cases. So our objective is you'll be able to find the square of a binomial and find the product of a sum and difference. So we're going to go over both of these today in this presentation. So we're going to start out by just doing this and seeing if we can find a pattern. So I'm just typing out what this would actually look like. 2a plus 3 times 2a plus 3. That's what that means. Oops, let me zoom back out. So this is nothing different than multiplying binomials like we did on Friday. We're going to end up distributing everything just like we did last week, right? We distribute everything. So take a moment, pause your screen at home, and see if you can't just figure this out so that I don't have to. So you guys at home might have gotten 4a squared plus 6a plus 6a plus 6. And you might have added that together to get 4a squared plus 12a plus, oops, that should be 9, plus 9, right? And let's add a little to the second power here and to the second power here. So 4a squared plus 12a plus 9 should be our final answer. This part right here, 6a plus 6a, we're going to kind of notice a pattern right there. So let's go ahead and do one more real quick. X minus y squared. And I'm going to write this out just to make sure we know that this would look like x minus y times x minus y. So go ahead and pause your screen real quick and see if you can't just figure out what this would be. All right, thanks for taking your time there. So let's write this out, shall we? So this is going to be x squared plus xy plus xy plus y squared. Oops. It's going to be minus, isn't it? Minus xy, because it's minus, sorry, minus xy. So let's go. How do we get this? X times x is x squared. Oops. X times y, negative y is negative xy. Negative y times x is again negative xy. It doesn't matter which order you put them in. I just kept it consistent. And y times negative y is y squared. Again, we see this, right? Negative xy minus xy, we're going to get, our final answer is going to be x squared minus 2xy plus y squared. So what did we notice is when we saw when we square a binomial, we noticed in the middle we had 6a and 6a and negative xy and negative xy. So that's sort of a pattern that's repeating, right? So this is actually the square of a binomial is the square of a binomial is the square of the first terms plus twice the product of the two terms plus the square of the last terms. So when we see something as a plus b squared equals a squared plus 2ab plus b squared, what that means is And sorry, before I go back. So a plus b squared. So anything plus anything squared, you're going to get the first term is going to be squared. So let's go back. So 2a so 2a squared, when I square just 2a, it's going to be 4a squared. X squared, when I square x, it's x squared. So that checks out, right? The first term is squared. That's my first term. So the next part should be 2 times the first term times the last term. So the first term and the last term, 2a plus 3, my middle term up here, according to that, it should be 2 times ab. So what that is, it's 2 times 2a times 3. So 2 times 2 is 4, times 3 is 12a. That checks out. Remembering that in this is a plus b squared. And my final answer should be a squared plus 2ab plus b squared. That is what the rule is we're going to get. It's just a fancy representation of the first term squared, which is 2a squared, which is 4a squared. The second term we got is 12a. And the third term is going to be b, which is 3 squared, which is 9. So we don't have to do all of this shorthand. We can do it sort of in our head to cut to this final answer. The same thing could be said here. X minus y squared. When we have x minus y squared, this is, again, a minus b, and it is squared. Oops, I don't want to do that. I was making this bigger, but I want to make it smaller. I give up. All right. So, and this we know is going to end up being a squared minus 2ab minus b squared. So what that means is I'm going to take the first term, x, and I'm going to square it. And that is my answer right here, x squared. Then I take negative 2, because it's a minus sign. It's minus 2 times a times b, minus 2 times x times y. Oops, and it's not minus b squared down here, it's plus b squared, because think about it, anytime you square something, it'll be positive. Plus y squared. Y is b, so plus y squared. So it checks out. The math works. We get this. The reason we get it is because of this little pattern that we saw right here. Right here in the middle, I have negative xy, negative xy. Here in the middle, I have plus 6a, plus 6a. So the little trick that we've got going on here is the middle two terms are always going to be the same thing. And if you think about it, say you have 3 plus 3, you can rewrite it as 2 times 3, right? So if you have a times b plus a times b, you can rewrite it as 2ab. So that's where we get this, because it's always going to be, we got that, a times b is 6a plus a times b. Here we got negative x times y and negative x times y. So that's a times b and a times b again. That's always in the middle. So that's where they get that. And then you always are going to multiply the first parts to get perfect squares as well. So let's just try one more of these. We'll practice this a bit more in homework. When in doubt, you can always write it out. We're going to try one of these. 3x minus 1 times 3x minus 1. I want you to do it however you want to do it. I'm going to actually write it out. This does say when in doubt, write it out there, so why not? So go ahead and give that a try real quick. All right, thanks for giving that a try, everybody. So we are going to multiply everything out. 3x times 3x and 3x times negative 1. So 3x times 3x is 9x squared minus 3x. Now we're going to get the same, we're going to do negative 1 times 3x to get negative 3x, and negative 1 times negative 1 to get positive 1. So we did negative 1 times 3x and negative 1 times negative 1. We see that pattern, negative 3x and negative 3x. Remembering, we could rewrite that as negative 2 times 3x. Right? That's a way we can rewrite that, right? We could, because if it's negative 3x times negative 3x, just like if it was 3 times 3, we could rewrite that as 2 times 3. It's the same concept we were talking about earlier. But now we're going to simplify this. We have 9x squared minus 6x plus 1. You'll notice that's actually a squared plus 2ab plus c, right? It's the same thing. So let's try number 3. That's 5 plus 5n squared. The whole thing is squared. Let's see if we can't figure out how to do it see if you can do it the shortcut way at home, remembering it should be a squared plus 2ab plus b squared. All right, take a second at home, pause it if you need to. All right, thanks for giving that a try, guys. Hopefully we found out it's going to be 25, that's a squared, 5 squared, plus, what is 2 times 5 times 5n? 2 times 5 is 10, times 5n is 50n, plus 5n squared is 25n squared. I don't need parentheses here. So we end up with a squared plus 2ab plus b squared. We could have done it the long way and gotten the same answer, so it's kind of just a shortcut. So let's try a new kind of problem here, okay? Here we have 4m minus 3n times 4m plus 3n. This is called the sum of differences. So let's actually, you know what you're going to do, right? You're going to distribute, you're going to distribute, you're going to distribute. So try this at home real quick, okay? Pause it, do this math stuff. So what we should get here is 16m squared plus 12n minus 12nm, 12nm I ran out of space, plus 9n squared. So what we're going to notice is these two things in the middle. Sorry. So these two things in the middle, they cancel out. So when they cancel out, we get 16m squared plus 9n squared. Sorry, so it's the product of a sum and a difference. I realize the product of the sum and difference. The product of the sum and differences. We're going to always get, is what we're going to see on here, when we see a plus b times a minus b, so anything plus the same thing plus anything minus the same thing, you're just going to get the first two terms squared. A squared minus b squared. You cut out the middle because in the middle, you're always going to wind up with opposites. So let's put this into practice here, that when we have the product of the sum of differences, we're always going to just wind up with a squared minus b squared. When in doubt, we can write it out. So let's take a look at 5v plus 3 times 5v minus 3. So I'm going to start us out by just distributing. You can use whichever method you want. We're going to write out the first one, just like we did with the other ones, and we're going to do the second one by hand. So give it a try at home real quick. Pause if you need to. We're going to go ahead and move on here to doing it. 5v times 5v is 25v squared. 5v minus 3 is negative 15v. 3 plus 3 times 5v is plus 15v, and 3 times negative 3 is negative 9. These in the middle are going to cancel out. Oops, not all three, but these two are going to cancel out, negative 15v and 15v. So we're left with 25v squared minus 9. That is a squared, 5v squared minus b squared, not negative 9. 25v squared minus 9. So let's try this one right here. 7a minus 8. 7a minus 8 times 7a plus 8. Go ahead and pause at home. See if you can figure out what your answer is by using the product of the sum and difference rules here. That's going to be a squared minus b squared. So if it's a squared minus b squared, 7a squared is 7 squared is 49, and a squared is a squared. Now I'm going to subtract. Now it's going to be minus b squared. b is 8, so minus 8 squared, 64. The answer is 49a squared minus 64. So both of these simple rules, whether it's when we square something, you can do it out by hand if you don't like the rules. But you can also know it's a squared plus 2 times a times b plus plus b squared. Remembering that if it's a negative, it's going to be a squared minus 2ab. If it's a positive, if it's addition, it's a squared plus 2ab. If it's negative, if it's minus, it's a squared minus 2ab. And then with this product of the sum of differences, it's always just a squared minus b squared. So these are some simple rules. Your homework assignment is just practicing these special rules. Thank you so much, and we'll see you on Friday or Wednesday.